everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Fallon, and today I'm going to be sharing clue 2 of the So Sweet Puzzle Mystery Quilt. I am doing the small apple cider and the large churro, so I will be working through both of these colorways today. This puzzle mystery quilt is the So Sweet Puzzle Mystery Quilt. You can find information about it on the Cotton Cuts website. I'll put a link in the description below if you are interested in checking it out. They are so much fun. I have done one before, fully completed it, and now I'm working on these two because I thought that one was so much fun. So I'm going to start with the apple cider and work through the small puzzle mystery quilt, and then after that I'll start on the churro puzzle mystery quilt. So come along and sew with me. All right, so one of the reasons I really love the puzzle mystery quilts is because they are already cut for you. So when I get them in the mail, each clue, I can just start sewing, and I absolutely love that. It's so nice to just have a project you can just really jump in and start working on. Plus, Cotton Cuts always has the most fun colorways. It's always so pretty and the colors go together so well. It's just so much fun. So I don't know if I mentioned in the other video I did because I was just so excited to get started because it was the first one, but the apple cider colorway, I actually have all of the packages for it to work on because they Cotton Cuts reached out to me and sent me all of them since I have been doing these videos about all of Cotton Cut stuff and just raving about it. But since they sent me this one, I purchased the churro one on my own because I was like, there were so many that I wanted to choose from anyway, so it just kind of worked out really nice that way. So I have all my pieces organized. I kind of like to lay them out because in the clue, it lets you know how many of each you have. And I think I mentioned last time, make sure you hold on to the pamphlet that comes only in your first clue because it lets you know what all the fabrics are labeled so that you know which ones go where when you're sewing. So we're going to take a look at step 1, and we're going to be sewing together triangle A with triangle C. And we're going to make 4 of them. So triangle A and triangle C, so that is fabric A, which is kind of this dotted not crosshatch, I don't know, dotted little squares. And then fabric C is the orange, and we need to make 4 of those. So it looks like it's going to be these. Make sure I have all of them. So I just placed them right sides together, and you can tell that some of them are really close to looking the same on either side. They're just a little bit fainter, so that's going to be the wrong side. Solids, they're usually fine either way. So when I put them right sides together, I'm just going to sew a 1/4 inch seam along them. And if you know me at all, I know this is just step 1, but I like to look and see if there's anything else I can possibly do without getting mixed up in the pattern. So when I go sit down to sew, I like to sew as much as I can. So I'm placing these right sides together, and it looks like next we're going to be sewing a square A on. So we're going to be sewing these onto it, which we can't do until after those are sewn. But we do have some A and E triangles that we need to make down in step 4. So we're going to take an A and an E, and we're just doing 2 of those. So this is step 4, and we'll put those right sides together and sew them while we're over at the sewing machine. Okay, I'm gonna grab my little design board that I made to put these on. Okay, and then if we look over to step 7, we have some fabric B and fabric F squares, and we're going to be sewing 8 of those together. So I'm gonna get these all right sides together. And I don't think we used this fabric last time. I think, was it this one or that one? I don't know. But I know there was a fabric that we didn't use last time that I was like, oh, can't wait to see that come together and everything. So we got 4 of these. We need to get 4 more. So I'm putting those up on my design board. And then we have fabric A, which is this one. This is my favorite in this. Oh my gosh, it is just so pretty. I don't know if I mentioned this is the Season and Spice for Art Gallery fabric. So if you like this colorway, I don't blame you. You may want to grab some. So fabric A and D, these triangles, we're going to put 4 of them together to make 4 half square triangles. And this is step 9. So if it's easier for you to just work one step at a time, definitely do that. I am just the type of person that when I like to do as much as I can at one thing. Like if I'm going to be sitting down to sew, I want to get as much sewing as I can done. When I press, I want to get as much pressing done as I can. Trimming, the same thing. I just think it makes me a lot more effective and efficient. So this is how I feel comfortable working. So look at this, how much we'll have sewn. We only have the rectangles and a few more of these little squares left. We'll have so much sewn together already. All right, so I'm gonna take this over to the sewing machine. I'm gonna do a 1/4 inch seam along all of the triangle diagonals, and then a 1/4 inch seam along the side of the squares. All right, so I have all of my pieces sewn, and we're going to start with our step 1 piece. And I will tell you, in our pattern here, it tells us which way to press our seam. So I definitely recommend following the way they ask you to press, because it will help you in the end. So I'm pressing the seams for our step 1 half square triangles to the A fabric. So I kind of finger press over and then add the heat. So we have all these pressed, and then we're going to be adding on our square with fabric A, and we're adding it on next to the C. And so it will kind of look like this. We're going to fold it over and we're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam on each of those. So make sure you look at the placement so you have it correct. And sometimes what I do, if I do a lot of sewing at once, I'll put a pin in so that I don't accidentally sew along the wrong side when I go over to the sewing machine. So when I get over there, maybe I'll turn my design board and accidentally sew the wrong side. If I don't want to rip out seams, that is a very simple way to prevent myself from doing something like that on accident. So line that up. Especially since I like to do so many steps at once, it's really important to make sure you're not sewing things incorrectly. So I'm going to set that on the design board. And then if you remember, we jumped ahead to step 4 and joined our A and E triangles. So we're again going to be pressing to our A fabric. I really love this color so much. So I'm going to add some heat through here. And then these we're going to set aside because we aren't going to be able to use them until we have the segments here completed. So I'm going to set those to the side. And then we're going to press our squares. And we're going to press all these to the F fabric. So that is the plum. And then we'll actually be sewing these together as well. So we're going to turn them and make kind of a checkerboard pattern. And because we pressed the seams the way the instructions have been asking us, we can nest our seams nicely. Add a pin so that we'll get nice, perfect little points there. Okay. So I'm going to get the rest of these ready. I'm going to press them all and get them all pinned. And then we have these other half square triangles that we sewed, and these are over at step 9. They're all going to get pressed to the D fabric, which is this plum with the florals. So we'll press these and set them aside because we won't be able to use them till a little more sewing is done on these smaller segments. But I'm going to get these all pressed and pinned. We're going to be making 4 of those checkerboards, and I'll meet you at the sewing machine. All right, so now that we have our segments sewn, these are on step 2, and we're going to press the seam over to the half square triangle. So I'm going to add some heat here. And then we will sew these segments together. And we're going to be kind of making a bow in the center with the orange. It kind of looks like a little bow getting made here. I'm going to put those right sides together. Again, because we followed the pressing instructions, we'll be able to nest the seams here to get a nice flat seam. I'm going to add a pin to keep those together. I pressed this one the wrong direction. Oops. No, I pressed that one the right direction. Oh, because I didn't turn them. Oh, I sewed this one on the wrong side. Do you see? Good thing I caught it now. Look at that. They look so similar. So I'm gonna pull that out and resew this really quick. It's so hard to see my threads because they're a really similar color, really light color across here. But I definitely am glad I caught this now because it would be so much harder to fix later. Okay, so there's the right side. So I'm going to sew across there really quick. Okay, so there we go. Got it fixed. Put them right sides together. Nest that seam, and then I'm going to add a little pin in there. And then we're going to press these kind of checkerboard blocks. Fabric B is in the top left, and we'll press it down away there. Add some heat, and we're making 4 of these. All right, and then we're going to add these onto the A-D triangles that we made in step 9. So A-D, there's 4 of these. So we're going to have fabric B, F, F, B. So we want B on the top left, and then fabric A is going to be joined like that. So we have our half square triangle with the fabric A on the top, D on the bottom, and we're going to have that straight line lined up with the checkerboard, right sides together, and we'll sew a 1/4 inch seam along the side here. So I'm going to add a pin. We're going to go ahead and get all of these ready to go over and sew. So B, F, F, B. Right sides together. All right, we're going to take these over to sew. All right, so we're going to press down. And these blocks are going to be sewn onto these 2 A and E blocks. So how these are going together is we're going to have an A square on the top left, and we want to line up our A triangle just like that. Put them right sides together. Put a pin in, hold it in place for sewing. And we'll do the same with this block. Line them up, right sides together. Then we'll sew a 1/4 inch seam along there. Right, and then we have these segments that we made. And we're going to press the seam toward the small checkerboard squares. All right, so we just need to sew these two segments right now. So I'm going to head over to the sewing machine and sew these. All right, so I'm going to press these to the large half square triangle here on the right. All right, with the large half square triangle segment on my right, I'm going to put these longer rectangles right side together across the top of them and sew a 1/4 inch seam across. Okay, so we're going to press up to this long rectangle. Okay, and then we're going to take 2 of these other segments that we finished and add them on to the bottom, and then we'll have 2 left over. So I'm going to bring these right sides together, add some pins for sewing. All right, so I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch seam across both of these, press them, and then we'll be done with our clue 2 for the small apple cider. All right, so on this final one, we're going to press the seam down. All right, so here are our finished blocks for clue 2 for apple cider for So Sweet. We have these 2 here that I'm going to label 2A, and then these 2 here that are going to be labeled 2B. Oh, I love these colors so much. I cannot wait to see this quilt come together. So I'm going to fold the instructions in half. And what I do to store them is I just put them inside here so that when I get my final clue to put these all together, I know that these 2 are from my clue 2. So I'm going to set these to the side along with my important pamphlet here that has all the fabric labels on it. And then we're going to get started on Churro. Okay, so I have everything organized for the Churro clue 2 large. And it's interesting because It kind of looks a little different this time. On clue 1, we kind of had a lot of similar pieces, and I see little segments that look similar to those small, but it's a little bit different this time, and I'm kind of excited about that. So we're going to start with step 1 and make 4 triangles, use 4 triangles to make some AC segments. So A fabric is the books, and C fabric is this beautiful background here. Now, what I'm not sure of is I think we're going to be using these smaller ones because I didn't want to get them mixed up. So yes, it's the small. If you look at the measurements, then you'll be able to know for sure. So now we're going to put these right sides together, and we'll be sewing a 1/4 inch seam along the diagonal. And I'm going to use my design board again so that if I have some extra items I can sew together, I can just add them on here and get them all sewn at the same time, just like before. So I think this is real. I really wanted to be able to do a large and a small after doing the first one because I really wanted to know what the difference is between the two. So it's really interesting that this clue is just slightly, it looks like different. So now I'm going to jump down to step 5, and we have some little squares that we can sew together, and we're going to sew 8 of these right sides together. And we're going to be sewing along one side, so 1, all right, so I have 4 of them now, so I need 4 more. I think what's fun with these two is that they're such a quick sew each month that if you wanted to do multiple because you wanted to do different sizes, or you wanted, you know, because you like a lot of the colorways, it's so easy to work on these each month. I mean, it takes no time at all to get these together since they're already cut. It's just so easy. And they're just a lot of fun because you don't know what they're going to end up looking at. It's a complete surprise. I just think I think it's fun. I know that isn't for everybody. Some people want to know what the pattern will look like and all that, and that's fine. We're all different, but I find it a lot of fun. Okay, so you notice we had a few of these left over, and I'm sure they're going to get used at another point. Now we are going to skip down to step 7, and we're going to be sewing together an A triangle with an E triangle. So the E is this fabric here, and we're going to be making 4 of those. There are 4 here, so we're going to grab 4 of these, and we're going to be putting them right sides together and sewing a 1/4 inch seam along the diagonal. I really, really love this fabric. All right, so 4 of these. So 1/4 inch seam along the diagonal. And then we're also going to do 8 triangles with A and C fabric. So this will be all the prep work that I can get done right now, because then we'll need to press all these, and we'll need to be joining some of these segments with some of the other ones. So I'm going to lay all these together, and then I'll meet you at the sewing machine to sew. All right, now that all those segments are sewn, we're going to press our small half square triangles to the A fabric, so the little books. Then after pressing, we're going to add a small A square onto the left side of each new half square triangle. So we're going to bring them right sides together. And we'll sew a 1/4 inch seam along the side. I'm going to put a pin in so I remember which side to sew. Okay, and next I'm going to press the small squares we sewn together, and I'm going to press them to the A fabric, so the little books, the lighter fabric. And then we're going to be sewing these together into kind of like a checkerboard. If you remember in the small apple cider, we did the same with the little squares in that one as well. So because of how we pressed, when we bring these together, they'll be able to nest really nicely together. So I'm going to add a pin, and I'll do the same with all of these squares. All right, so we're going to take the half square triangles we sewed in step 7 with the A and E fabric, and we're going to press toward the A fabric, the books. And we'll set these to the side to sew more segments onto later. Now with our A and C fabric, we are going to press these to the A side as well. We have 8 of these. And we're going to be sewing 8 of these segments with the AC half square triangle onto an A square. So I'm going to add a pin along the side for sewing later. We'll sew a 1/4 inch seam along here. So I'm going to get the rest of these half square triangles and squares set up, and then we'll meet at the sewing machine. All right, so we're gonna press these segments we made in step 2 toward the seam toward the square. All right, and then we're going to sew in step 3 one of these A rectangles on top of each one. So right sides together. All right, and then with these 4 segments, we're going to press up to the F fabric. All right, so with our F square up on the top left, we're going to be joining these with our half square triangle we created with the A and E fabric. So this is step 8 where we're joining these together. So just like this, right sides together, and then I'm going to add a pin in. So we're going to make 4 of these. Okay, so with our segments here that we sewed in step 11, we're going to press to the half square triangle. So press our seam to the half square triangle. All right, so I pressed to the half square triangle side, and we're going to turn one, and this is how we're going to be sewing them together. We're going to make kind of a bow here. It looks like a bow to me. So bring these right sides together, and we're going to add a few pins this time because it's a little bit larger. Right, and we're going to be making 4 of these segments. All right, so I have 2 more of these to get ready, and then we'll meet at the sewing machine to sew all the segments that we've prepped. All right, so now we're going to press up towards this little rectangle on the segment we sewed together in step 3. All right, and then we're going to add these onto the last 4 A squares. So with the rectangle up and the large A square to the left, we're going to put them right sides together, and we'll sew a 1/4 inch seam along the side. All right, so with the segments we sewn in step 8, we're going to press to the 1/2 square triangle. And then with the bow segment that we sewed in step 12, we're going to press up to the A square that is on the top left. So we have 4 of each of these, and I'm going to go ahead and press all of them, and then we'll meet at the sewing machine to sew the segment we prepped. All right, so we're going to press to the square with this segment. There's a lot of books on this one, huh? This is like the tiniest little bit of color. All right, so these segments are going to get joined to the segments here. So these are the segments we joined in step 8, and these we finished for step 4. So we're going to have the checkerboard segment on the top left, and the large book block is going to be on the bottom. All right, and then we're just going to put them right sides together. If you followed the pressing, you'll be able to nest that seam in the center to make sure that it joins perfectly. All right, so we're going to make 4 of these. All right, I'm going to go sew a 1/4 inch seam across these. All right, so we're going to press down to the largest book square on this block. Okay, and I'll be doing that with all 4 of these segments. But we are going to take a look at how these are going to be sewn together for the final block. And this is how it will look. So the segment with kind of the bow, it's going to be on the left, and then our checkerboard block up on the top left. We're going to join these right sides together. I'm going to put some pins in. And we are going to be making 4 of these. So I'm going to get all of them prepped. We're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam across here, press them. We're going to press them to the bow side, and we'll take a look at our finished blocks. All right, so here are my finished blocks for the Churro large puzzle mystery quilt. This is the So Sweet, and there are 4 of these. So they all look the same, but I do want to pull out my apple cider blocks and kind of compare and look at those. So like I said, it looked like this might be a segment that looks similar from the Clue 2 on the small. This block here does resemble this, but it's smaller. So I really wonder how this is all going to come together. It's really exciting because this one was really different aside from this segment here. So I guess we'll see, right? All right, let me know what you thought of this Clue. Which colorway are you doing? What do you think of the ones that I am doing? I really love them both. I'm excited to see how they both turn out. And I can't wait till I get Clue 3. So I'd love to hear from you in the comments, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.